For 3 weeks, the Donna Howell Show is going to do something a little bit different than normal. We are going to talk a little bit about the radical health journey that I have just begun. The things that we are going to be discussing on these episodes for 3 weeks in a row. First with Jamie, a health coach with Eden's Essentials, and then with a couple, the Umbriacos, Ralph and Lori, who are excellent experts in their field of medicine and general health. We are going to be talking about a number of different health-related issues. I challenge you at home, hear me say this very carefully, we will be discussing these things for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please, 2 things, do your own research, proceed with caution. Also, speak with your doctor before doing anything that you hear mentioned for these 3 weeks. Thank you. Personal hygiene. Everybody knows the importance of personal hygiene, but internal personal hygiene is a newer concept to most people, including myself. But is it or is it not one of the most important things that you should be focusing on your body? Everything from autophagy, which we discussed last week, to internal gut health. The whole formation of the body relies on the idea of being clean from the inside out. There might not be as quick a fix as you want. It could be a lifestyle change. Are you ready for it? I would challenge you today to ask yourself in this way, God, are you asking me to do this? That makes the question, are you ready for this? A whole different subject. To discuss this with me today is my guest, Lori Umbriaco. Thank you so much for coming on with me.
Blessed to be here.
Last week, to bring everybody up to speed and to remind the viewer, again, if you didn't see last week's episode, you really need to go back and watch it. We started with the word autophagy. We defined it on a very simple level for a lot of people who are new to that. I was certainly new to that. You and I spoke the other day.
Yes.
I've studied fasting.
Yes.
My whole life.
That's right.
You know, the benefits of it. But that word, and it's not like I only just saw that word, but every time it popped up, I'm like, I don't know, some Greek thing. And I just kind of kept scanning to see what's the spiritual thing about fasting. Silly me. And then,
and then you found.
I guess maybe it kind of started a little bit with Before Genesis, because I started realizing with that, it's a book, by the way, that I wrote, that with Before Genesis Project, I saw God as the master scientist, not just God as a spiritual, mentor. And as the master scientist, suddenly everything popped. I mean, medicine popped, words that I had never seen popped in my face.
Yes.
And I saw that one again recently, and I thought, autophagy, what on earth is that? And I saw the healing and the benefits, the physical stuff, not just the spiritual aspect of fasting, which is so important. But again, do we or do we not serve our Lord, body, soul, and mind together?
Exactly.
And the body is part of that. So cleaning the kitchen, explain this.
That's the way I explain autophagy, in just this way that somebody goes into their kitchen and they're going to make a beautiful meal, and they get in there and they make kind of a mess, and they go sit down and eat it, and then they never clean the kitchen. So instead of going in there and putting everything away, wiping the cabinets, putting things in the trash, maybe moving them out to be recycled, and putting everything so you can go into your next meal in a nice place instead of a dirty place that is now creating bugs and disease and parasites and mold and rotten food and a smell and possibly all that together. Food is a blessing from the Lord. But if you're eating it for your body in a way where you're not getting rid of everything before the next meal comes in, then it's a lot of work for the body to decide what to do with all of those things that weren't cleaned up.
I can imagine that. I mean, even in your kitchen scenario, standing there and somebody just wallops me with a big pile of dishes, and all right, I'm getting on it, and I'm actually in a good mood, and it's fine, and I'm 1/3 of the way through that pile when another big pile. I can see that, and eventually I'm just going to stand there and take one cup at a time.
Exactly.
I'm going to be mad. I'm not going to work hard.
It's not going to work hard, and the body is... The hardest thing it does all day is digest your food. That's a lot of work, especially if what you're putting in it isn't needed or is toxic or, not of good quality, too much of it. We have to kind of wrangle ourselves together and think, how much of this that I'm doing when I'm having my meals is a habit, is something I'm craving, or is it really, how much of it is nutritious? We overeat in this country. Everybody kind of knows that, as not everybody, but as a whole. We've been blessed. And so we use it for everything, celebrations and everything. And I think God loves that. He made it for us to enjoy. But we've taken it a little bit too far, I think, as a whole. We've been eating the foods that have not been really healing us.
You mentioned that some of the foods are made to be addictive.
Yes.
I hadn't really thought of it in those terms.
Right.
But a lot of the processed foods, there's all kinds of things in there that would absolutely be addictive.
Remember Lay's potato chips?
Yeah.
You just can't eat one. You can't just eat one. That was their little logo because you couldn't. You just wanted the next one, and I know that they have huge laboratories where they actually scientifically went in and studied how to make foods addictive. So this is not like a thought. It's a truth. That's what they did because they want you to want more. They're selling their product, but most of those products have things in them that, aren't really good for you. They're good for a moment. You really need to start understanding how the grocery store is even laid out where, you walk in and you don't go in the middle unless you want to buy something, in the soap department or something, but go around the edge the best that you can.
Joe actually calls this concept the benevolent they. Joe and I came up with that in our teen years. And actually, it wasn't even in relation to health or food at the time, but we like TV and stuff. We always think, they wouldn't allow this. Oh, they would certainly protect us from that. No matter who the they is. And so the benevolent they in the supermarket is the FDA or whatever, the government, whatever. And we're always thinking, they wouldn't allow it on the shelf if it was going to be bad for you.
Right.
And that is so not the truth with all of the poisons we're putting in our bodies every day.
It's not. They'll go, okay, we need to lower the fats, the low-fat diet craze that I think was going on probably up until maybe 10 years ago. Everybody, low-fat cottage cheese, low-fat bread, low-fat this, and then they find out that that's not good for you. After they pushed it on everybody for 20 years, and it's not good for you because your body loves fats and it needs real fats, and all of our ancestors ate fats. And that's the one thing, like if you're going to just circle back into autophagy, one of the main things autophagy loves, high fat, is not something that sends your sugar over the top at all. But it needs to be the right clean fats. And it's pretty simple because there's not a whole array of them, really. The whole thing with the marketing of foods to make us think that, these things are good for us is a harsh subject. But it's good for us to come alive to that so that we can make good decisions because there's such an array of food. There's just no way you're going to be unhappy if you learn to cook good foods. You will change over and love those as much as you thought you loved that. In fact, more. Because as time goes by, when you taste that, you're going to recognize there's something here that's, I could have this over here in a different way. It's a time thing, too.
Which is also funny because a lot of the times that, and no matter what diet or fad or whatever anybody's doing, when they see the rules that they have to follow, they still have, and especially with the internet, come on, Pinterest, one word. There's so many recipes to do the healthy version of what it is you're trying to do.
And they look good. They look good. They're delicious. If you had time off and that was your deal, I would be doing it, but I would be trying some of those. But I'm satisfied with just a few little things that make me happy. You don't need the full array, but every once in a while, if you have a whole family and children, go for it. I find personally that I don't get tired of good food. You could go, okay, I went to Mexican food last night and I ate all this, are you going to do that every night or probably not. You're going to get tired of that. But when the food is good and clean, pretty much like every day you taste it, even if you'd be like, this is good, So if you could tell it's the natural way that God wanted us to really eat,
I feel like that's true in satisfaction of appetite as well.
Yes.
Because one of the things I noticed, and this was so many years ago, I don't even know what age I was, maybe 16, 17. Right. But I just went on a binge. I happened to just be at a camp. It was the very first time I had worked around. And this would get too far into my, my mom and dad didn't have a whole lot of money when I was growing up. In fact, a lot less than a whole lot of money. We had nothing.
Yes.
And so you just got what you got on your plate. So when I was about 16, 17, I worked at a camp for the very first time that had an all-you-can-eat buffet for every single meal. So gorging,
I would've too.
gaining weight, just being just out of control. I don't want to make anybody who's listening think that I'm literally saying we were starving to death, but there were a couple of times, just a couple, throughout my childhood that we had wish sandwiches. It did get that bad, where it was fun and mom was trying as hard as she could. We just did not have food that night, and so we were going to fast, and it was going to be so much fun, but we were going to have wish sandwiches, and this is a part of my childhood. So 16, 17, 18, however old I was, that is when I just let myself go out of control.
You had a free-for-all.
Well, yes, I did. One of the first things that I noticed was that my appetite grew so much. I had gone from being satisfied with very little to starving all the time and then I was snacking all day. And somebody that I was working with, and this could be true, I have no idea. You would probably know better than I do. She said that it was because the more that you put in your stomach physically, the more it expands, which physiologically, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I got to looking a little bit deeper a number of years later and went, that's why that happened, is because it's almost like you're not putting any actual nutrition in your body. You're just putting in a bunch of filler garbage. And so your body can't even take out the garbage. But it's meanwhile, while it's choking on the garbage, it's saying, I need nutrients. Send me nutrition. And so you respond to send me nutrition with garbage. And your appetite increases and increases. So you can be stage 4 morbid obesity and be starving all day long because your body's not actually getting nutrition. That blew my mind when I realized that.
I know. Because you could just, what are you going to do? You're going to put a bunch of stuff in there and the body's going to be asking for, where's the minerals and where's the, the proteins to make all these things, and nothing's there but empty calories. It tasted good, but then you're going to want more and more and more.
And meanwhile, it's filled with addictive chemicals. It's a loop.
So then what happens is if you keep doing that, you end up with toxic fat. That's what I call it, toxic fat. And I've seen it written that way, but it is toxic fat. Some people need to get healthy before they lose weight, and some people need to lose weight before they get healthy. And there's 2 different ways for people to do that. Because if you've got a lot of toxic fat on your body and you're like, no matter what I do, I don't lose weight. And we talked about that. And I said, well, that's not really true. I mean, if you stopped eating, you would lose weight and you would eventually die if your body is also trying to protect itself from burning that fat that has all that toxicity in it. If you're real dirty, it's going to, make a mess in there. You're going to be burning more toxicity and you're already toxic. So usually just by shifting things into maybe, being more careful and mindful about what you're eating. And if you eat good food, you will not, after a while, your body won't ask for more food. It will go back to like what you were before you had the whole
enchilada?
The whole enchilada camp. And you have to kind of consider that, this thing's in it with you. So you're not separate from your body, but love on yourself and just, and it's a journey because we've all been fed addictive things unless we were raised on our own farm and grew our own food and all that our whole life, and some people have. So pretty much if you've been raised up, you've gotten some of that. And, we know what it tastes like, and we know what that feels like when, you're going to go too far with things like that. It's not that would never happen. But if you could keep your basic part of life, the bigger part of your life, starting to widen that, because that gives that rest. And then when you feed it, it will eat the right things, and then it won't ask you for more. Your appetite, you can eat very dense nutrition and hardly eat anything, but it's so dense in what it's giving you that you won't ask for more. Your body won't ask for more once it gets used to it. So, some people, they've changed their mind from food is a joy and that food is a tool, athletes and high athletes and stuff like that. And when you really listen to some of them, how they eat and they use it as a tool, because it is a tool. It's an enjoyable tool, and we don't want to take that away from the fact God gave us the array of food that we have never even seen in our life because we don't live in those countries where that stuff even grows, right? But every once in a while you see it, he wanted us to enjoy this. But he also did not want us to be a glutton or to do all these other things because he knew it would hurt us. So there's just, a reining in on realizing what food is for, where is it coming from, who's giving it to you, what's in it, and, how can I just keep that cleaner, get my body stretched out longer in between meals, making sure things have been digested, and trying to not eat as much portion-wise.
I think that's another benefit that comes from fasting.
Yes.
Because like we said a minute ago, there's kind of twofold issue with eating garbage. There's the physical expansion of the stomach, so you've trained your stomach to expect a certain volume of whatever you're eating. Good or bad, it's a volume it's expecting. Yeah. And then there's the nutrition aspect. So if a person were to start off and say, okay, I'm going to do only healthy foods, only just the great stuff, that first few days is going to be so hard because the physical expectation of the incoming food volume is still going to be there. With fasting, and by the way, this is probably 1/10 of the reason why I did the fast, the radical fast I just got off of. Not the first time I've done a radical fast, but like I mentioned last week, if you missed it, I mentioned to the audience last week, I've done radical fasts a number of times. They've always worked really well. They've always been great, but I have never been sick like I was this time. And as I was telling you over the phone the other day, Lori, and as I was telling Jamie last week in the episode, I got myself into a rhythm in my life where it was like, I've got to be a servant to the king first, and then I've got to be a wife and a mother. And then underneath that comes ministry. In order for me to do all the things and be all the people, I had to work around the clock. I'd never slept. My diet was whatever in the world is just grabbable from my freezer, which was Hot Pockets, corn dogs, all kinds of garbage, and I was feeding my body with garbage. And then because I am related to Joe Horn mostly, the minute I would be done with a big season like that, I'd pop out of it and I'd say, okay, we're going to focus on my health again. I'm going to eat clean again. The inflammation would go away. You can see this. It's transparently on camera. I mean, it's on film for years. You can see there's inflammation in my face. I look puffy. I look older. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, I'm on Skywatch again and I look all right. I'm doing okay. I'm radiant. I'm whatever. All of a sudden, this last two times that I put myself into major, let's flip the schedule, let me work my hind end off to get this done, I didn't bounce out of it. And of course, as you and I both discussed, age, God telling me stop, I don't require this of you, that whole thing. But fasting this time reset the tummy trigger much more than it ever did before. Because
really? So that's interesting.
Yeah. And that was probably 10% why I did that, because by the time I came out of it, again, my body was very used to eating. 4 a.m. was one of my meal times. Like, it was just so out in the boondocks where I was wanting to be with myself, and I wasn't bouncing out of it. I was doing the right thing. I'm going to start eating clean again. I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable hour. Come 4 o'clock in the morning, my body was waking up for a Hot Pocket. It was so stupid. I'm like, I've never had that happen. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm going to have to do a radical something to shock my body into the proper system again. And that tummy trigger was a big one. It was by deciding I'm not going to have my stomach having anything for a few days except for just the electrolytes and the water and a couple of anti-inflammatory things like sprinkled ground ginger in my hot water, that kind of thing. That was all I did. And I did it for days. Again, people, listen to me. Do not just take this as medical advice and just launch off into your own program because Donna Howell did it. Please speak to whoever your medical professional in your life is. But that's what I did. And the tummy trigger reset immediately. I was not even done with day 2 completely. And my stomach had shrunk so much that a cup of broth filled me. And by broth, I don't mean chicken broth. I was strict fast. It was hot water with lemon, cayenne, and ginger. And of course, the Redmond's real salt, not just iodized table salt. OMG. OM goodness. Anyway.
That's right. No, so your body was super happy with what you did. So now you know you don't want to do that to yourself anyway. Stop it.
So you actually go deeper with an actual colon health. I mean, some of the things that we talked about on the phone the other day, you're very knowledgeable about this.
There's an organization called the it's an IACT, International Association of Colon Hydrotherapy. So let me just drop into why anybody would do that really quickly is just the fact that I always loved natural health, and I was very interested in all kinds of things to do with that. So I took some courses on different types of modalities, healing modalities and things that I was interested in. It kind of came down to, if you're not digestively healthy, if your body isn't digesting properly, you are going to probably experience some type of a health issue. You could get to the gut and the brain axis, how gut health reflects in your mood and your mental health, which is huge. They've kind of come to learn. They used to not understand that, but now they know that there's a very primary thing between these two things. So this unhealthy, this possibly unhealthy, mood-wise and hormonally wise. And your microbiome, which is the soup that's going on inside of your digestive tract, what's going on in there, because of what's going on with the food system. They've been shooting up a lot of our proteins and things with antibiotics. So when we eat that, we're eating antibiotics. And even though you might say, I never take antibiotics, or I try to not do that, you are getting antibiotics. So, we're kind of carpet bombing ourselves a little bit.
And
right?
hormones too, right? Aren't we?
Yes.
Okay, we're getting
you
hormones
bet.
and antibiotics from all of our meat. I thought so. I wanted to confirm.
So my thing was, if I'm going to go into this, I think I'm just going to step straight into the deepest hole of the body. The way I went to school and the way I learned it for the people who helped teach me, there's like 26 feet of intestines inside of the body. So you're not going to get into the small intestine. There's only the large intestine. But I was taught that, that you want to usually eventually get people to where they could go through some fasting and taking some nutrients and fiber, and this is going to be something else, but bentonite clay, because when you mix that fiber, which is like a type of psyllium that's super soft, a very, like people take Metamucil or whatever, this is more of a natural form of that, not, because Metamucil would put fake sugars and stuff in there, so people thought it tasted good, like with the orange flavor, right? You don't want to do that every day. So, but there's other ways to get the fiber. And then you would put clay, bentonite clay, which is a liquid that's definitely something that can go in the human body. And then as you drank that, it would go in and it would lay along the whole, eventually along all your intestines, and the clay would absorb all the stuff on the sides. Years ago, there used to be these colon hydrotherapy machines in hospitals and stuff all over the place. Now, if you go look that up, you're probably going to hear something from like the Mayo Clinic saying, that's dangerous. Don't do that. Well, we used to do it. They all used to do it. So it's pretty obvious.
I don't think that you'll overstep in generic terms on this or any other Skywatch programming to say that the Western system in general doesn't want people doing anything natural.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Western system is not all bad. But what we discover with the Western system is that they quite literally cannot survive without a constant income of money.
Yes.
And if they're going to be there even for our benefit, even if we want to look at it that way, that the Western system is there for our benefit, which it clearly is. There are times when Western medicine is needed. It exists for a reason. But to have Western medicine in most cases be the very first place we stop on our journey to getting healing for whatever the problem is, I think that's where we get out of balance.
For things that are possibly controlled by us, right?
Right.
You need something sewed up, you go right on in there, right? And so everybody knows that. But as far as the other things, that's like a level of learning how to do self-care, right? At home and certain things that can be fixed at home. The digestive tract wants cleaned, and they'll say, you don't need to clean it. Well, maybe we didn't when we ate right.
Thank you.
But now we don't.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the deal. Like,
wow.
Because people say, well, God made a self-healing thing, and I don't ever need to do things, and things never go up that direction. And I'm like, listen, let's get real about, the reality of the poisoning and the toxicity, depending on where you live and what you've eaten. And it's there. And it's obvious by the health of Americans. To me, it's obvious. So that doesn't have to be the way that you fix it if you're all squeamish about those kinds of things. But that is a way. for people who are very ill, possibly dealing with some immune problems. There's times not to do that, depending on, if you're pregnant or just different things like that. But the Gerson method, which is a clinic that's been around a very, very long time, where they take in very ill people through different things and they put them through all types of this type of cleansing. So I have a website that I had mentioned that maybe we can post up for people who are interested in learning about the gut-brain axis, what's going on in there, how to keep that clean, just a lot of information there. She's a colon hydrotherapist also, but her site, Optimal Health Network, it's a blessing. If you do want to learn to do any of these things for yourself at home, because you can, it's all on there, what you would want to buy and how to do it and videos on all of that. So, because there's so many people who don't understand, if you're having, let's say 3 a day, he uses the train analogy, 3 trains going in the station, and then he'll ask people, how many trains are leaving the station? Mm-hmm. If you're having 3 or 4 meals and you're only having 1 train leave the body, then where's the other trains? And what are they doing? So
stacking.
They're stacking. Oh, I'm really regular. I go once a week. And you're like, oh no, that's good that you do that. But you need to go, at least, you know your body, but it needs to get used to getting rid of things. And when the food is toxic and everything, it just messes with all of that. It has a rhythm too. And if there's enough water and enough fiber, you're going to have, unless you're just living in total stress and lack of movement. So now you're like, okay, what happens now? Because I've got things in here and they're not coming out. How do I fix that? So some of it's diet, be very conscious of your fluids. A lot more water, salt, because salt also helps that.
The right kind of salt.
The right kind of salt.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of things that fix that, and that one website will go into a lot of things about that. That kind of just led into how to get the best that you can out of your foods and your products, because everything goes in from the outside too. So we have to be aware that, are we sticking our hands in things that are changing our hormones because they're estrogen. They're not fun subjects, but once you kind of just, okay, I'm going to clean up my laundry and how I'm doing now, and then I'm going to make sure I'm do this, and then, and just one at a time kind of go through and look at what's in there. And there's another really good website. It's called the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. And if you go to the EWG, they have products that have been rated for toxicity from all over the place. And then if they have one also called Skin Deep, EWG, which is all about the external, for babies, for makeup, for all of these things. So if you're looking at buying something, you could say, I'm looking for lipstick. Let's just say. And so you go in there and they'll just start rating. They have color rating, and what's in them from the cleanest. And so if you have, okay, I have this brand and I'm going to look it up, it's going to tell you whether you should be putting that on your lips or not.
What's so fascinating about what you just said is that I'm sitting here because everybody that knows me knows this is true. I do not wear makeup, period, unless I've got a camera on me.
Yeah.
Ever. For anything.
I'm kind of getting there.
Yeah. I think it's probably maybe 5 dates with my husband in the 19 years we've been married that I've went and dolled up. I mean, every great once in a while I stumble into a makeup counter, but only by accident, I promise.
Yeah, well, you don't really need it.
But it just occurred to me that, if a person's listening to what we're talking about and they're looking up autophagy, I want to go on a fast, I would need a detox, I need cleansing, all these different things, that they might be doing that and then, going to work on day 1 and 2 or whatever, leading up to the weekend, wearing all of their makeup, hairspray, all of this stuff, which obviously I don't think that would necessarily cancel entirely the benefits of autophagy or fasting, of course. But it didn't even occur to me that there might be these moments where people are thinking, oh, I'm doing all of the right things, but then they're toxifying the external layer.
They are. And makeup, I'm just telling you, sister, it's so down and dirty. It is bad. I mean, I've seen them look at it in microscopes and there's things in there, parasites and stuff. So, and these are things that you're putting right next to your eyes and your lips.
Wow. Yeah.
And on your skin. So why would that be? Because they don't have anybody reining them in, really, And there's oils and there's things that, I guess these things want to proliferate in. And so, the makeup's got all these oils. So there's things in there. And I saw it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, besides the fact of the dyes and the chemicals and this thing that they use to color most makeups comes from bugs,
Oh.
A lot of the inks and the dyes, it comes from bugs, Not that that's a horrible thing, that a bug is a horrible thing, but bugs have a lot of parasitical things.
Right.
So, and then we could just throw out there that, of course, the government's trying to get us to eat bugs. That's been a huge topic of them grinding up different bugs and putting them in the flowers and different things.
Huh.
So there's like an app you could get on your phone called YUKA, YUKA. So when you shop, you can scan the thing and it'll tell you what's in it. And there's other ones now.
It'll tell you what's in it that's not listed on the ingredients.
Yes, and like kind of a rating form, kind of like the EWG.
Okay.
Like good, bad, don't even consider,
Oof. Okay.
Yeah. And there's part of it that tells you if there's insect in it. And we went to Costco and we're like, there's bugs in here, because they had to admit. So that's been a big topic about having us not eat so much meat, but more bugs. And so then when I saw that it was in the smear on the microscope with the lipstick, that and I'm like, really? Why should I be surprised? I don't mean that mean, but here we go. This thing with the foods and all this, we, in this country, they don't ever want to talk about us having parasites, which is becoming a humongous topic now because of, the pandemic and just different things. And there's a lot of information on that also that has been way buried and been around for a long time.
Well, and some of it's not even buried. Some of it's just as common sense as ever.
It is now.
Anybody, you don't even have to super deeply research this to know that in the Bible days, there weren't a bunch of cancer cases that Jesus had to heal. Why is everybody dealing with cancer right now?
Right.
Why has, the cancer ratings just skyrocketed in recent history?
Yeah.
So you're right. There's a daily toxicity being put into every body that lives in these overprocessed states.
Yep. And the powers that be that are like our watchdogs that aren't supposed to be allowing this. There's a woman that has kind of a platform. They call her the food babe. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's been around. She would go in front of places like Nestle and these different ones and say, why do you guys have these things in our whatever food and in Europe, zero?
Oh,
yeah. Because somehow they just get paid off by these giant food corporations and they don't try to clean up our food.
Right.
But in Europe, people will say, well, I went over there and I was able to eat their breads and stuff and not feel ill because, they don't allow it at all. So, they might have other problems that we don't, but they have a lot cleaner foods for the most part, way cleaner. So we're kind of the dirty basket over here right now. And we all just sit back and like, why is that happening? Because here you have people who are going out there screaming with their megaphone, things people are trying, but it never seems to really happen. It's like maybe one win here and one win there, and then we got, Monsanto here in Missouri, and, they're sticking their stuff up in all the seeds. And, that's antibiotics. That's what it is. They put it in the seed so that when the bug eats it.
Even a vegetable. I didn't know that. I knew we were poisoning our meat.
The bug eat it, the bug dies, but you can eat it and it's not going to hurt you.
And see, of course, I'm sure all of this is very justifiable. And if you're listening, I'm putting air quotes around justifiable right now.
Yeah.
Justifiable to.
There's no justification for it, actually. People have sued them for cancer and won. They know that's what they're doing.
What I mean by justifiable is I think there's probably people, up in the upper rungs of whoever the benevolent they are, that is saying it's a trace amount. If a person eats one of these bugs in their lifetime, it's not going to hurt you. And it's like, okay, but extrapolate that by 500 toxicities per bite.
Yes.
All day, every day, 365.
One of these won't kill you, but what if you ate, that package of that, and then over here, this, we have so much in here. So you're not having one.
Right.
You're going over here and then having, whatever. And all of those things is the legal limit. But then I had one over here and then the one over here. And so how do we fix it and take it back into our arena is eat mostly whole foods. You eat around the sides of the market. You do your best to do that. And I know that, it's a learning process, but little by little, you're like, this is my favorite dish. I'm going to learn how to make it clean. And then you do, and then you're like, this is really good, So I'm not going to miss this one anymore. And then you add another one and another one. And, nobody just eats something different every night. We all kind of go through, taco night or whatever night, So you just learn how to make all those clean. Right. One by one. So it's not like an overwhelming scourge and stress on you. Then little by little, you clean it out. And it's good. It's God wants you to be clean inside. It's your temple.
Well, there's definitely never a time when crying out to the Lord for help is a bad idea, but definitely there is a time when I feel, and I'm not trying to speak for God, that he's going to say, I've given you the tools, I've shown you the way. Somebody, whether it would be somebody from Skywatch or a podcast somewhere you learned that the things you're putting into your body on the daily are not good. And I have made the human body. I know how it works. And I am trying to tell you, Sister Susie or whoever, you need to clean up the act.
He wants us to do what's good for us.
I think God wants us to thrive in our bodies.
He does.
And I think there's probably, like you say, a lot of places outside of the United States where that's still happening, but we are, media central, and all we see is obesity, Botox, all of the commercialization of beauty.
Yes.
Everything is a fad diet. Ladies and gentlemen at home, I am not trying to wag my finger at anyone, but I will never forget how absolutely diabolically convicting it was when I first heard a song by Keith Green, and it ended, he was talking about the sheep and the goats, and it ended with him saying that you will be held accountable for the things you did, big pause, whomp with the music, and didn't, big pause, whomp with the music, do. You will be held accountable for the things you did and didn't do. And we forget that a lot because we're really good at pointing out the don'ts. Don't be mean, don't smoke, don't drink, don't over this, don't. But then there's all these do's. Do make sure that what you're putting into your body is clean. The body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And to ignore that means that you are deciding to tell God there's something more important than keeping your body clean. Do your best, one step at a time. I totally get it. I, of all people, I literally just sat here in this very episode and admitted to eating corn dogs and all kinds of garbage when I was in my season of trying to serve the Lord, because I was so busy serving the Lord, I wasn't taking care of the body. So we all do it. Yeah. But I challenge you at home, is this your season? Is this your season? The Donna Howell Show is not going to become a health show, but I had to pause our study on theological topics for just a few weeks because what happened to me in 3 days on an autophagy fast was so radical. And I saw so much healing in my face. You've seen it too. I posted it publicly. If that can happen in 3 days, how much more can happen when you decide to cut the toxins from your life? Clarity of mind. That came on day 2. Yes. Clarity of mind was so powerful. I couldn't believe how clear. Because it's related to feminine health, I will not go into detail, but there were hormonal things I noticed immediately. Those hormones that a couple of different doctor voices said, honey, watch your expectations, they cleaned up fast.
Awesome.
Now, some of this might be supernatural because God said, yeah, I see it, honey. You're my daughter and you're trying hard and I'm going to bless you in this season. But some of it had to be physical. God is the God of science.
Yes.
God made the human body. Listen to it. Be obedient to the word. Consider putting fasting back into your life. I know you're busy. I know you just can't. And all the other things, the can'ts, I can't. This time do. Just do. And by the way, don't go anywhere because next week we are having Lori Umbriaco's amazing husband. He is a doctor, one that I have listened to his voice many times in the past. To this day, I still salt because of him. What do I mean when I say that I salt? Okay, we're going to bring him up next. Stay tuned.